Amazon says the grocery store will utilize its new Dash Cart, which lets customers skip the checkout line, along with Alexa to tell shoppers where certain items are located. With brown bags in tow, Porya Pirzad was the first customer to enter the store.
Dash Cart is something new and amazing. I liked it. Compared to the traditional cart, I think the next time I will use it again.
This is a response, I would imagine, to Walmart actually making gains on online e-commerce. So this is sort of an area that Amazon really wants to be involved in. The grocery industry is $1 trillion industry annually. This is obviously a place they would love to, make some money.
CNET senior editor Ashley Esqueda says Amazon's use of new technology is a plus, especially during the pandemic.
The less amount of human contact that we have when we go out, the better. So I think it might be surprising on its face to say, oh my gosh, Amazon's launching a new idea right in the middle of such a tumultuous time in our economy. But it actually makes a lot of sense in the way of what people want and need in this moment right now.
While fires burn across California, lives are at risk, and that includes animals. A wildlife sanctuary was destroyed near Big Sur, and now we've learned the Oregon Zoo has some connections there. The Ventana Wildlife Society watched the destruction of its sanctuary as it happened using its Condor cam. But in the early hours of August 21st, they lost that too as the Dolan fire burned over the camera in the area where 4 chicks were in their nests. The Dolan fire is burning too hot for staff to check on the birds.
We don't know yet if they made it. We are encouraged though. In 2008, we had 3 nests burned over. All 3 chicks made it. But there is a chance they may not have, but we won't be able to confirm that for at least a couple weeks until things calm down in the actual fire zone.
Ventana Wildlife Society has been integral in the recovery of the California condor. Get this, there are only 337 free-flying birds. 100 of those are part of the flock near that sanctuary. They say that they're hopeful for the wild birds because they nest in redwoods, which are fire-resistant. The Oregon Zoo says it is very connected to the Ventana Wildlife Society and called the fire devastating. It is one of the 5 release sites for the Condor Rehabilitation Project, and the Oregon Zoo sends birds every year to that release site, as well as others determined by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The zoo says this is a huge hit to the program, as every bird is incredibly important. Well, they're working on raising $500,000 to rebuild. We've got a link to more information at kptv.com. Let's check out the gently rolling hills of Dayton, courtesy of our Stoller Family Estates camera. Drew Reeves is back in moments with a chance of rain in our forecast, but now we're 30 seconds to 6.
30 seconds to 6. Echoes of history on the National Mall.
This is the Commitment March in the spirit of 1963.
Resonating in the present and here in Portland. The Rose City remembers the March on Washington and a history repeating. First, President Trump uses Portland to paint a bleak future. New this hour, Fox 12's political analyst weighs in on the impact of local protests on the national stage. The 6 o'clock news starts now.
Good evening and welcome to the 6 o'clock news. I'm Nora Hart. We will get to your top stories in just a moment, but first, we do want to get to some breaking news we're following right now. According to the Washington County Sheriff's Office, a 14-year-old boy has died at Hagg Lake. Deputies say he was swimming at the lake around 5 o'clock when he was hit by a boat. We don't know what led up to the accident at this point, but we do have a crew on the way, and we'll bring you new information as soon as we learn more. Nightly protests in Portland are taking center stage in the race for the White House. In his speech last night at the RNC, President Trump used Portland as a talking point in his bid for re-election.
Make no mistake, if you give power to Joe Biden, the radical left will defund police departments all across America. They will pass federal legislation to reduce law enforcement nationwide. They will make every city look like Democrat-run Portland, Oregon. No one will be safe in Biden's America.
All new at 6, we sat down with Fox 12's political analyst John Horvick with DHM Research to talk about the politics of protests and the role Portland could play in November. Fox 12's John Hendricks joins us live tonight with what we learned. John?
Well, Laura, an interesting conversation to have. We kind of dove into how much of what is happening here in Portland and across the country will play with presidential politics. Also looking at what has been tried in the past to win elections. For nearly 100 days, protests on Portland streets have ebbed and flowed.
No justice, no peace.
Some days are peaceful, while others break into violence. All this is being watched by the entire country and now playing into presidential politics.
Portland's a great example. It's been going on for 90 days, and we could put it out in 1 hour. All they have to do is ask us to come, and we will be there with the National Guard.
A big question is what is happening here shaping minds of voters across the country. A Princeton study making headlines again looked at county voting data between the 1960s and early 90s. It found election years with nonviolent protests led to people voting for a liberal candidate, while violent protests did the opposite. The study looked at Richard Nixon's campaign in 1968.
Protests were spiking at that time, and there was a presidential election, and the history seems to suggest that was helpful for the Republican, for Nixon in that campaign.
Nixon ran on a law and order platform. We asked Fox 12's political analyst John Horvick, can that same strategy be applied today?
People are asking, does that mean it's good for the Republican Trump in this campaign? And that's a fair question to ask. But there's just so many differences.
Differences like people are more likely to vote along party lines. Politics of today are more partisan, and voters are locked into their political party. Horvick says the Trump campaign is using these protests to further their message of law and order.
One, he needs to define the protest as violent, and he needs to define somebody else is responsible for them. And so it's pretty easy to look at images, frankly, in Portland and to see violence. And you see the way he's talking about it in Democrat cities.
At the same time, Democrats are using Trump's response to protests and other issues, saying it's a problem.
The rhetoric that the Democrats are using is around existential threats. It's around our democracy, our ability to survive as a free people, as a democratic society.
Though protests may be top of mind in Portland, a much bigger issue is weighing on the minds of voters.
The biggest issue, by far, for voters in the 2020 election, in addition to partisanship and how they sort of feel about the president, is COVID.
He says it's hard to see that issue changing with just over 2 months until Election Day. Horvick says polling data shows that support for these nightly protests has dropped, but says early on that they were able to spark change not only at the city level but at the state level as well. Change says he says might not have happened without the protests. Reporting live tonight, John Hendricks, Fox 12 Oregon.
John, thank you. Today marks 57 years since the March on Washington when Martin Luther King Jr. made his historic I Have a Dream speech. Thousands of people gathered at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial today, demanding an end to racial injustice and police brutality. The rally focused on the struggles the Black community is facing now in 2020. Among today's speakers, family members of MLK and family members of Jacob Blake, who was shot by police in Wisconsin last weekend.
We're marching to overcome what my father called were the triple evils of poverty, racism, and violence.
I ask everyone to stand up. No justice! No.
The rally ended with a march from the Lincoln Memorial to the MLK Memorial. Hundreds marched this afternoon through the streets of Portland as well to coincide with a virtual March on Washington this year. The event was hosted in partnership with Portland's NAACP and youth organizers with Fridays for Freedom. Fox 12's Sarah Hurwitz reports from Revolution Hall.
Well, the group marched to Revolution Hall here this afternoon, having a celebration for several hours, hearing from speakers, and some music and food trickled into the celebration as well. You know, it's been 57 years since the March on Washington. The message here today, that work still needs to be done. Hundreds gathered ready to march outside the Oregon Convention Center Friday afternoon.
Make some noise, Portland!
Edie Mondene, the president of Portland's NAACP, energizing the crowd.
We're not here to support any political platform.
Before the march on Portland.
It makes me feel like we still have a lot of work to do. People are, yelling around the country and the world for justice against injustice.
The crowd took to the streets of Portland, marching from the Oregon Convention Center to Revolution Hall to commemorate the 57th anniversary of the original March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Youth organizers with Fridays for Freedom, a group that leads marches every Friday for Black liberation, say that they are encouraged by the turnout.
It's a good feeling to see this many people out here. Portland, we are the whitest major city in America, and to see so many white allies and white people show up for us, it really motivates us to continue what we're doing. Some even coming from Albany and Philomath for the march on Friday.
I mean, we're less than the minority of the minorities, right? Especially if you're Black in Oregon. So I come to stuff like this just to remember that I'm not alone in this.
Now, we did also speak with Senator Ron Wyden. He was here in attendance. He said he was going to take part in the march, and that event here did wrap up early this evening. Reporting in Southeast Portland, Sarah Hurwitz, Fox 12 Oregon.
In our COVID-19 coverage tonight, some good news to report. 2 Oregon counties have been taken off the governor's watch list. Those are Multnomah and Hood River counties. Governor Kate Brown says both counties succeeded in slowing the spread of the virus enough to be removed from that watch list. 6 other counties, though, are still on that list. Those are in red on your screen there. Counties on that watch list that are not able to slow the spread could face even tighter restrictions. A wildfire in the Mount Hood National Forest is growing fast. The White River Fire has now spread to more than 9,700 acres, more than double the size reported just this morning. Governor Kate Brown has authorized additional resources to fight the fire burning southeast of Government Camp. Yesterday, some areas were put under a level 3 evacuation order. The fire is currently just 10% contained, and it is spreading fast. With that, let's check in with Drew Reeves now, keeping a close eye on things.
Yeah, we've got quite a few fires burning across Oregon. We kind of have 11 major big fires that are burning right now, and quite a bit of acreage that has burned, 81,000 acres. And just in the past 24 hours, we've seen a lot of growth, just as you were saying there, Nora. 3,000 acres total in the past 24 hours. But again, the one closest to the metro area is that White River Fire. It is burning just nearly 10,000 acres. And again, significant growth just in the last 24 hours. Back here in the metro area, temperatures today warm, but not terribly hot, sitting right around 84 degrees for that high in Portland, mostly into the mid 80s, into the 60s and lower 70s on the coast. But then as we head into eastern Oregon, highs today getting close to 90 degrees, if not into the 90s. So a fairly warm day across the region, but tonight things are going to cool down. Our low going to be right into the 50s, mid to upper 50s, and we are going to be seeing clear skies both west and east of the Cascades. We're going to see those clear skies continuing, but as we head into tomorrow morning, we could see some clouds building. So expect to see some morning clouds, but then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, those clouds going to be burning off for a very nice Saturday, but temperatures are going to be cooler. Our high tomorrow only going to be 80 degrees. And as we head into tomorrow, we also do have to be aware of a red flag warning. We are still into the heart of fire season, and tomorrow afternoon and evening east of the Cascades, the strong west wind will arrive. We also have that low humidity, and temperatures going to be warm there, so those fires can spread rapidly. We're of course be watching that, but temperatures continue to be cooler here in the metro area from there. 78 degrees on Sunday, 75 degrees on Monday, and a chance of showers, but then things warm up. We are back into the 80s, and as we head into Thursday, 89 degrees. Normally our last 90-degree day in Portland is in September, but last year it was in August, so possibly we could get another 90-degree day there. May feel like summer's ending, but summer weather still sticking around.
All right, Drew, thank you. With the uptick in gun violence across Portland, some believe more community outreach and involvement is needed. Fox 12's Bridget Chavez reports from Northeast Portland, where more affordable housing is being built, but it's also the scene of a shooting that happened there just last night.
By the look of things now, you wouldn't know that 4 people were shot here last night, but leaders I spoke with say that's why parks like this and new housing is needed to help stop the violence. Lisa Frack says more people and more eyes in this neighborhood could help prevent crimes from happening like we saw last night. She says in the late spring of 2021, 75 units will be available for families to move into. And this project has been in the works for years to help provide opportunities and keep people out of poverty.
Relevant to what happened, the tragedy that happened last night, one thing we do feel like is that eyes on a park is always a good thing. So right now there aren't eyes on the park, and there will be, because there'll be a lot of people living in there that we think will liven up the space.
But beyond more infrastructure, Lori Palmer, founder of Go Get Your Child, says it's on Black men in the community to step in and lead by example. Palmer lost her son to gun violence a few years ago.
It's time for you guys to step up and take the lead. Not the police, not the mayor, not the chief. We need you to come out here and take the lead. Start talking to your family. Start reaching in and telling them, this violence, you got to quit it. You ain't gonna be doing it in my family. We need you to start taking the lead.
Palmer tells me she plans to sit down with Mayor Wheeler and put together specific plans on how to stop the violence. Reporting in Northeast Portland, Bridget Chavez, Fox 12 Oregon.
At this point, there's no word on any arrests in last night's quadruple shooting. We're also waiting to get an update on the victims' conditions. Coming up tonight at 6:30, we'll hear from a witness who rushed over to help.
The 6 o'clock news is just getting started.
Straight ahead, college students facing the possibility of catching COVID-19 on campus all knew this hour how they can head into the fall term with a little more peace of mind. And coming up at 6:30, the mysterious disappearance of a teenage girl in Corvallis, how authorities are pulling out all the stops to find Ava Carey. The pandemic is prompting a lot of parents and college students to consider a new school supply, college tuition insurance. As Fox 12's Camila Ortiz shows us, it can help protect you if you get sick and if you have to drop out of school for a semester.
Yeah, and Nora, there's apparently a lot of interest in this out there because there's been a big rise in tuition insurance sales as concerns grow about possible campus outbreaks. Tuition insurance isn't new. It's been around for students who need to drop out due to medical reasons, but it's definitely gaining popularity in the age of COVID-19. While most classes will be online this fall at Oregon State and the University of Oregon, students will be moving onto campus.
Our number one priority as we prepare for the future is the health and safety of each of you.
Just this week, the U of O announced students living on campus will be tested at move-in and periodically throughout the term. Oregon State also announced plans to test students and get the results before their room keys are issued. With similar protocols across the country, there are still, no doubt, concerns about COVID-19 and possible campus spread. That's why tuition insurance company GradGuard says business is up 100%.
There's definitely a market for it because tuition just keeps rising and it's so expensive.
GradGuard offers insurance at about 350 universities across the country, including OSU and the U of O.
Universities are cash strapped this year more than ever, and you should never really expect universities to be able to afford to provide a refund.
The cost is about $106 per term for $10,000 in coverage. That covers deposits, academic fees, housing, and tuition, but does not cover students if they decide to pull out for any reason other than getting sick.
It definitely would be unfortunate to spend so much money and then not really get it back.
So if you're looking into this, the GradGuard CEO did say it's worth starting with your school, see what they may offer in case you do get sick, as the cost can be lower through the school itself than if you get it through an external provider. Live in studio, Camilla Ortiz, Fox 12 Oregon.
Camilla, thank you. Now to the Gulf Coast. In the aftermath of Hurricane Laura, aerial footage out of Louisiana shows the sheer devastation with entire neighborhoods just leveled. You can see there. Officials say it'll take days to fully assess the damage. The storm is now blamed for 14 deaths, most of them from trees crashing into homes and from carbon monoxide poisoning tied to generators. Hundreds of thousands of people are still without power and water tonight. Laura will move toward the mid-Atlantic over the weekend before exiting on the East Coast. With that, let's get back over to Drew Reeves. We're taking a look at our weather back here at home, which is a lot calmer.
Yeah, much calmer. We have a very nice day out there. We saw some morning clouds, but those have burned off, and now we're seeing blue skies across much of the region, 83 degrees, so it is still a warm evening out there, too. It was a warm day. This is a live look from our Riverview Community Bank river camera. The coast seeing fairly nice temperatures there as well. This is our Chinook Winds camera in Lincoln City, 63 degrees there right now. Starting to see some clouds moving in on the coast, but they saw a fairly clear day as well. Tonight, temperatures are going to be cooling down into about the mid-50s for most of the region, and expect clear skies sticking through the evening tonight. And then as we head into the day tomorrow, temperature is going to be cooler than what we saw today. On the coast, expect morning clouds and then clear into the afternoon. Wind gusts around 30 miles per hour. Temperatures into about the mid-60s on the coast. Here in the valleys, though, things definitely cooling down. Temperatures only going to be right around 80 degrees. Again, expect morning clouds and then plenty of afternoon sun into the day tomorrow. The Columbia Gorge, morning clouds again on the west end, and then it is going to be a breezy afternoon with wind gusts around 40 miles per hour. Temperatures right into the 70s, 80 degrees in the Dalles on Mount Hood. It is going to be cooler and breezy there as well, with temperatures only into the 60s. And then as we head into eastern Oregon, it is going to be breezy and a lot of haze still sticking around, but temperatures there warmer into the 80s. The burn's going to be around 90 degrees. So here's what we can expect. That weekend, definitely going to be seeing those cooler temperatures sticking around, but we are going to be seeing plenty of sunshine into the afternoons after some morning clouds Saturday and Sunday. But then early next week, we do get a slight chance of seeing some showers possibly on Monday. Not a lot of precipitation, but we could get a shower early Monday. And then as we look further ahead from there, temperatures definitely going to be warming again. We do have some hot weather ahead. So here's what we expect with the cloud and rain forecast. Again, as we head into tomorrow morning, some clouds lingering around, but those will burn off into the afternoon, and then the afternoon looking clear. By Sunday morning, though, it does look like we will have some low clouds into Sunday morning, and then again clearing into Sunday afternoon. But then late Sunday evening, that's when we see more clouds moving in. And then as we head into Monday, that chance of showers, and it does look like clouds will be lingering around through the day on Monday. And then from there, Monday going to be a cool day, but from there, that's when we'll start to see those temperatures warming up. It will feel like summer once again.
All right, Drew, thank you. Coming up, the NBA playoffs, now a powerful platform for social justice. We'll hear from some Portland trailblazers amid this unprecedented moment of activism among athletes. And straight ahead, an attempted abduction at a local grocery store. We hear from the woman who was able to slip away thanks to a little advice she got from her dad. Well, it was a frightening trip to the grocery store as Fox 12's Most Wanted grabbed a young woman as a door to the van parked next to her slid open. She tells us she got away by doing something her dad always told her to do, but now she wants to warn others because that attempted kidnapper is still out there.
I don't want this to happen to somebody else.
Kaylee Mingo is one tough woman. An evening grocery store shopping trip at the Winco in Tigard turned into a fight for her life.
I kind of noticed there was like a space in between my car and then this van. And I kind of like looked at it and I was like, okay, that seems like a little odd. But then I saw a woman in the driver's seat. And so I was like, oh, like it can't be anything. It's just a woman.
But as she put her bags in the back seat,
he like grabbed my side and he was like, hey, sweetheart. And I like pulled away and I was like, don't touch me. And then he grabbed my arm and I turned around, I like ripped it away from him.
Then he grabbed a handful of hair.
Tried to like pull me backwards, and at the same time, like the door on the van like slid open.
But she wasn't going down without a fight.
My dad always taught me to walk around with my keys in my hand.
Keys with a seatbelt cutter.
And I had this in my finger like this. And so I was able to just like literally turn around and just like swipe him like this, and he like stumbled back. And yeah, I think that's the only reason that I'm sitting here today. I don't know. I honestly don't know what would have happened had I not had that in my hand.
Mingo didn't stop to see if he was bleeding. She just hopped into the car and drove off. She says she's thankful for a good support system and has this advice.
If you have that weird gut feeling of like something's not right, like listen to it. I wish I would have listened to my gut, but also I'm kind of glad that it happened in a way so that it brought light to it, and it, like hopefully we can catch him and he won't do this to other people.
And she adds,
is always having a key or something in the middle of your fingers wherever you're going, because it's like that saved my life.
Wow. Tigard police say they are looking for a man who is about 50 years old. He has gray and black hair and wears glasses. The van is all black with no windows in the back. Police ask that if you know anything about this, please give them a call. A bartender gets shoved to the ground for telling a man he needs to wear a mask. Coming up, the bar owner describes what the man said right before the exchange turned violent. And today is Friday. That means it's almost time for the top stories of the week. Head to kptv.com and cast your vote to see if your favorite makes the list tonight at 10.
You're watching the 6 o'clock news. First, live, local.
Tonight in Washington County, deputies say a 14-year-old boy has died at Hagg Lake after he was hit by a boat. These are live images right now from Air 12 overhead. Crews were called out to the lake around 5 o'clock this evening. We're working to gather more information on what exactly happened. We invite you to stay with us right here and at kptv.com for updates on this breaking news.